over in Europe, and he also, is basically in the synthwave industry genre, and he's a artist, guitarist, keyboardist, vocalist, you name it. Droid Bishop, what's going on, man?
How's it going?
It's
Thanks for having me on your show this fine evening.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you coming on, and like we were talking about, it looks like Instagram actually finally did you a solid. I saw you kind of posting about the algorithms and the just questioning what's the point of the targeted ads and all that.
Yeah, I mean, they work once in a while, like you said. I think someone at one of these shows, you just mentioned the tour, I think it was the last show in Finland, and some girl and her husband or something, they were like dancing the whole time in the front row, and they told me after that, like, we saw the targeted ad, like, we've never heard of you, and so she said the same thing, like, we got one person from it, so those hard-earned dollars are paying off one way or another.
For every couple hundred you spend, you get a couple dollars of streaming, right, and a couple tickets sold, right?
It's all a crapshoot, and just it's luck of the draw sometimes. But I believe, like, putting on your best every day, and whoever, you never know who's going to see that targeted ad. It might be just the right person, or I mean, I'm still figuring all that stuff out. But like you said, we're here right now because of
targeted ads.
That. So we'll thank them today for this.
Shout out to Zuckerberg for not zucking it up this time, right?
Yeah,
Praise Instagram.
He gets one today,
Praise
but I'm
Meta.
sure he'll blow it soon enough. So
yeah, and it was in the night too. And guess what song it was that I saw on my feed in the night? It was The Night. So how fitting was
there
that?
You go. The stars are aligning. Nashville to Los Angeles.
Exactly, man. You ever been to Nashville?
I have.
Awesome.
A couple of times. I've done other gigs, like as a guitar player, and
right.
Definitely a prominent scene. And so I'll put it this way: I've enjoyed the hot chicken before it became the big thing right now. So Hattie B's was my first experience a couple years ago. So
man.
I even went back there when we flew back for some gig. I'm like, we got to go to Hattie B's, man.
That shut the cluck up sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you got to be careful too, man, because I actually got some hot chicken today, but I didn't get the Nashville hot chicken. I got the medium, and man, was I glad I didn't get the hot chicken, because the medium tore me up. If you want your sinuses cleared, anybody listening, get some hot chicken for sure.
I mean, I just carry my Tums with me, and I'm good to go, man. You can't keep me down.
Get you a nice bottle of Pepto, wash the Tums down with. There you go.
It's not my first rodeo, and I like my spice, so whatever you got to do.
Exactly. Yeah, and so with your instrumentation and whatnot, you're talking about playing guitar. I'm guessing that's kind of your primary instrument. Obviously, I see you playing on the synths as well, live and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to pick one and be like, this would be, if a gun was at my head, like, pull this off right now, whatever you can play, like, it would be the guitar. It would be the most comfortable instrument for me. But I do like playing other instruments like drums and keyboards, and I write and think in those terms when I'm composing. Some guys, like, they write all those parts, but they're still thinking in, like, kind of a singular way of thinking. I hear a lot of drum tracks on music, and, like, it's not, I can tell they're not, like, thinking like a drummer, if that makes sense.
Right. So are your drums, are they actually on the records? Are those from your keyboard, or those how do you make the drums? Do you actually play them on like a electric kit, or?
I've got an electric kit, and I laid out some stuff on there, or like the keys. Sometimes you're just in the age of, like, computers and analog versus digital and all these endless conversations. Like, if I'm here and I just have an idea, I need a cowbell. Like, dude, it's on the keyboard's right next to me. I'll pull the cowbell sound. Like, I don't need to, like, getting
Mike
the
a
drum
Cowbell
thrown
just
Mike this, whatever.
Yeah, just to have that badge of honor that you mic'd it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's a constant battle of real human connection, artistry mixed with like the technology we have today. And I think a perfect balance is always welcome. But it's just finding that balance of like what you can live with personally as an artist too. I mean, I like the technology, but I don't like need to like just slap vocal tune all over vocals for no reason.
Right.
So,
well,
I mean, I'm tangenting pretty hard here on the tech side, but what was your original question?
No, you're good, man. We're all for elaboration on topics for sure. So I was gonna mention this, man. I really appreciate the like how you use the analog and incorporate that into your music. With this whole digital era, you can still tell the difference. I feel like on keyboard sounds when it's like authentic, analog. Like I can tell you've got a synthesizer and you're sitting there turning the knobs, and you've got videos of you doing it, of you creating your sounds with all the different effects and stuff on there, versus just picking a sound and then adding some plugins to it. You're spending a lot of times getting that authentic like 70s, 80s sound from the analog. And I was actually showing an engineer friend of mine, and we were really geeking out on the whole production of just how it's like almost like 70s, 80s music brought to modern day production value. So like we're hearing it through the ears of people from the past, because you listen to a 70s record now and it's just not hitting the same in the car as the new stuff, and you've got that production value there. So yeah, man, I really appreciate what you're doing with your records for sure.
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate you saying that. It's funny you mention that, because I reference a lot of these old mixes and music that I listen to from like the 70s and what and as well as modern production as well. Like if I'm referencing like modern, the drums, I'm trying to get mixed like some record I'm referencing. But it's funny you said it. Those 70s songs don't kick in the car
exactly
like some of the modern production. But it's funny that I try to mix some of my stuff in that, like, to be less punchy on some of the material I make. Like now I'm kind of working on some more straight ahead, danceable, hard hitting stuff. But it is funny that you mentioned that, because I constantly. It's like when you set out to do something that you either admire or you're imitating or you're just like inspired by it, you never nail it, and it ends up turning out like your own thing anyway. So I think like when I try to make it sound like this tight 70s drum kit, it still sounds like dance music of today, whether I like it or not. So it kind of works in my favor to kind of stab in that direction, but it just ends up being its own thing anyway.
So do you actually mix your own music, or do you have an engineer that you use? Because the mixes are so clean, man.
Oh, I mean, I appreciate that, because like I'm in my head, so I do it myself, and I feel like I'm just getting now in the last year or so, and even in the last week, you learn so much, and I learned so much on the tour, talking with a bunch of other guys and like what they do. But I appreciate the mix thing, because to me, I'm still like, why doesn't my mix sound like this? And you think you nailed it, and then like it comes out and you haven't heard it in a couple of weeks, then you hear it streaming and you're like, oh, that's terrible. That kick sounds like dull as fuck or whatever. Everyone does that, and
I know,
but
man.
it means a lot to me that you think that they're hidden sonically for you, because I was talking to someone else, another engineer buddy of mine, and we totally agree that a mix is like its own kind of performance, and
seriously, man,
like,
absolutely,
it's like a mindset. So I really have worked the last 10 years or so to like get better, so I could just endlessly make music and never have to
wait on an engineer.
It'd be like a director having this like, what if like Spielberg had like Jaws in the bank, he filmed everything, but like there's no editor to do that, and there's always like a lot of people always need some last person to like finish a job, and I'm such a like, I just like never want to rely on like, last minute like remix comes up, oh, I've got to send this to be mixed and mastered by so and so by tomorrow, and they can't do it, or I don't know. I'm just trying to be like self-reliant these days, but within still like giving out good product. So sometimes I have to like bite the bullet and be like, you know what, I do need to outsource some piece of work here and there, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I completely know what you're talking about, and that's kind of something that I've always, tried to had trouble finding, is someone that can just give the quality, that's out there, especially in the electronic industry, because it's like the music's so loud and so clear, and it's just hard to get that same loudness and achieve it. But when I heard your mix because I heard it on my cell phone initially on the night, it caught my attention because it, not only was it a catchy melody, it just sounded good on my cell phone, and of course I wanted to hear it because sometimes it sounds good on the cell phone, and you go listen to it in the car or something like that, and there's not like the bass or anything you're expecting on it. But on your mixes, obviously I got in the car listening to it. It was the summer album, the Into the Abstract. I dived into that through the summer at the pool. I'd have it playing out there, through the summer, man, and it was bumping on the speakers, and I was like, man, this, I'm gonna have to ask this guy eventually who he has mixes records. So I'm super impressed that not only do you make this, write it and record it and make the whole record, you're also mixing it as well. So that's a lot of people just don't pay the respects on the mixing portion of it, for sure.
It's like the difference between hearing it and feeling it for a good mix.
I appreciate it. No, I definitely agree. I mean, it's so fun. Like, it's so funny to say this stuff because I personally like struggle with like even that album you mentioned. Like, oh man, like there's too much mid range or
right.
Like I'm granted I've heard these songs like 5 billion times. So you like all I hear is the bad stuff where you hear the good stuff, and it's cool to see a refreshing view on that, and I kind of look to people like Prince, and he like mixed all his stuff, and even maybe like some hot engineer who mixed Michael Jackson's records like maybe could have mixed his stuff sonically better on some level. But those jams like sound the way they do because like he was mixing like his vision, and like it sounds how it's supposed to be. And whether it's good or bad or something's better, that element is what it is in its own reality. If like that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get everything you're saying for sure, man. Mixing's always just the huge obstacle I feel like that I face, and I feel like a lot of artists face it and they don't even realize it. They don't even understand why their stuff's not doing as well, and they just don't understand that like their mix is just not there. Like so many pop stars, their mixes are just so good. They've got the top engineers in the game doing their stuff, and I feel like that's a huge part of it, of why people love a lot of the music that they like, is because the mixing's so important.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of this thing people will tell you like, well, most people won't notice, like the average person. But I think that they do. I think that they don't even realize, but they do need that like ultra clean sonic mix that's like on top 40, and something that's
Absolutely.
not that kind of like is like, oh, what's that weird? Like not.
Yeah, they don't know, but they know. Yeah.
100, yeah. And,
it gives you the edge.
Mixing's changed so much, like you said. You heard that song on the phone, and like everything's mixed. Like you have to check everything on like singular mono devices, and like kick drums have changed, like with that top 4K kind of bite snap in a lot of ways. So they pop through these mono bassless devices that we music on.
They make the 808s and everything will bleed through it. It's like exactly what you're saying. So, you have to check it everywhere.
Exactly, which is fine. Like when you talk about this daunting mixing things, like that was me for pretty much 9-10 years almost, and I'm just kind of coming from this place of it used to be mixing from like fear. Everything was about fear. Like, well, I don't want to check the mix just yet because I don't want it to be terrible, or like I don't want to check it in the car right now. Like, what if it's bad? And everything's just fear. And now it's more like I'm excited and more adventurous, and like, yes, I want to mix. I can't wait to mix this song. so I can like experiment with some like reverb stuff and like, you know. And I think when you're coming from that area, then things start to really happen, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely, man. What software are you working in?
I pretty much just use Logic.
Okay. Same here, man. That's
I'm trying to think if I do use anything else. I mean, everyone has their preferences, and I really just think it comes down to what you're used to, and anyone can go on about like, well, I just think there's a little cleaner output on this one, and it's like give me a break, dude. It doesn't
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, we all use that same decapitator plugin, right, on each one. Like, okay, well,
yeah.
I think people are a little caught up in like,
Oh yeah, the DAW war or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever it is. And it's like, how about we start with like, is your song good? You know,
Right.
That's what matters. So
Yeah.
but, you know, I'm a Logic man.
So for the mastering, do you have what? Speaking of the same softwares, I feel like everybody's using Ozone these days. Is that what you're using for the?
I don't have. I think I had some like trial thing of that, and I don't know if it expired. I do use, which like if anyone's listening about like that is a producer or like budding producer, mixing engineer, I use their Ozone stereo imager a lot, and I've found like stereo space, adding width, and more importantly like monoing stereo things like and like thinning things out using like stereo imagery or just gains and turning something to mono. Even like a keyboard with a chorus, you know, like a Juno that has like that, you want that chorus sound, but I don't want it to spread everywhere necessarily for that instrument. Just mono that or thin it out with one of those Ozone imagers. Like people kind of think like that they have to spread that wider, and they're not thinking in terms of like making things less so other things can breathe, if that makes sense, or if that's a decent tip for anyone out there.
No, definitely, man. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the stereo spreader, because everyone's kind of doing that on the basses these days. Like they're making the basses real wide, and I feel like I don't know if you're using it on your bass, but I feel like your bass is super thick in the car. It just sounds really good on the subs and everything.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm working on that, like that area. I actually just got a sub. Like I've never had a sub while I'm mixing, and you know, like I was talking to some other producers, friends of mine, and I've known it for years, and it's just like, you need to get a sub, and I'm like, I know. So I just got one, and like I just did a remix for someone, and the mix this week, like it felt really good. It felt balanced. I feel like it's my best one.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, the bass is always the trickiest part, I think, because it like you want it to punch, but then if you just go like a little bit too much down there, especially in the sub area, just a bit, it can ruin your whole mix. And I felt like I've done that, and those songs are already out there. There's nothing you can do.
Well, man, if it makes you feel any better, I've got 2 Memphis 12s in my car, and they are not muddy. Yeah. They're clean. The bass sounds very crisp on the record. That's why I'm, ranting and raving about it. That's why you're on the show right now, man.
I will say that I listened to Nightland, and that's my favorite track that you have out, and it's just so different, and it just feels so good to like on the ears. Like it's just so soft on the ears, but it goes like as hard as it needs to.
See, now that, and I appreciate that, and like that's even more interesting in this whole conversation of mixing, and because that's from my first release 10 years ago, where I literally didn't know what I was doing, and just kind of like peaking things, like just EQing things until I heard that, like that there. I think that bass on there, it has like a 18 dB boost of like 1K. Or something. It's like crazy things going on there. But to me, like it shouldn't sound soft. So it's weird. It's cool that like your ears are delighted by this rather than.
Well, also, I listen to some like crazy experimental music too. So.
Oh, so they make it. That music makes mine seem more palatable. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That weird, wacky jungle music that
yes.
you got playing. Okay, no, I feel you, man. I feel you.
Well, man, I was going to ask you. So I kind of dived into your career on the deep dark corners of the internet, and I see that your entire family is musical. Is that correct information?
That's correct. I mean, depending on what sometimes they get certain information wrong. But yeah, like my brother and my dad and grandparents, like my dad's side is kind of all musicians.
Okay, and it was mentioning that your dad toured with the McCrary family. Is that correct? They're kind of like a gospel
Yeah,
group.
or like he did a bunch of records with them, and like he worked, played music with them for a while, and they were. I don't know if you did much research on them. They were.
Well, yeah,
they're
I was
like a prominent like gospel family. Like
yeah.
they're like one of those entertainment music families that are like spread like like they're like one of the family members is like Eddie on Family Matters, like
Gotcha.
Darius McClary, and like one of the newer generations, like he was the voice of Simba in the new Lion King that came out like a couple years ago, and they sang on like Michael Jackson records. And
Well, I was wondering.
They were cool family.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because this is kind of crazy, but obviously we're like in the Bible Belt where gospel music's pretty prominent out here. And today, like the church I used to play piano at, which is right near my house, they were having the McCrary sisters there today that have like sang with the president, all these different artists like
That's
Michael
them.
Jackson, and that's the McCrary sisters. That's them.
That's them.
Yeah. I was. That's why I was like, I was sitting there like looking all this information up, and I see that your dad toured with the McCrary family, and then I click, on them, and I was like, wait a second, they were, because like I was supposed to go to their show today at that church, but I ended up, my uncle had Titans tickets, so I didn't go, but I've met them before. They go to that church all the time, so I'm just like, that's crazy, man.
If it's the like, there's not. It wouldn't really. I don't think there would be another McQuarrie sisters like advertised in such manner.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking.
It is them, and like they're a huge part of my family and growing up, and we attended their gospel church like when I was younger, and like the only like white family in there, and like I think that like I got certain things in my blood there of like like I'm into like intricate like chords and like jazz and like soul, like funk chord changes, and there's like richness there that I really enjoyed, like some of the gospel songs there over some of the like more Anglo like white Christian music.
Same, man.
Yeah, you get what I was saying.
It's way more fun to play, man. All that Hillsong stuff's it's just bland. It's the same stuff. The gospel music's insane. The chords and everything, all those chord substitutions.
The walk downs. It gets the party started. Definitely. That's crazy. Like the coincidental.
Yeah, dude. That they just were right down the block from my house today, man. What are the odds on that?
Less than half a mile.
Yeah, exactly. I can literally get there in 3 minutes in my car. So it's a super small world.
Meant to be, fellas. All meant to be.
I guess it's true what they say, man. You're only like 3 people away from just like circling back to yourself. Like.
Exactly.
Someone knows someone that knows someone that knows you. Like
hey, we're all made of the stars, my friend.
Ooh, true that.
But yeah, man. So what else you got going on? You just got off the tour. How was the tour, by the way, man?
The tour was good. I mean, like it was a wild schedule of just kind of nonstop travel and playing shows, but the shows were great, and that's what I love doing, and I gained more exposure, gained more fans out there.
Awesome.
It was great. It was a great time, and it was about 5 weeks, but it feels good to be back for a bit. But so I'm just working on more tunes. I like I said about mixing. I talked to a bunch of people out there, and the traveling. I felt inspired in a lot of ways. So I'm just kind of working on a few. Not experimental, but I've got an idea for a new release of Droid Bishop that's kind of it's going to be like a one-off kind of thing, more score-based, if you will, as I release other kind of dance tracks as well throughout the year.
Awesome, man. So any more tours or anything going on, or is that pretty much done for the year for now?
I mean,
taking a break?
Done for the year, and then kind of just trying to figure out what the next year is going to look like. I definitely want to do more shows, but it is hard to tour these days, like financially, and everyone's trying to book at the same time. So just like booking things is a little hectic, but it's definitely part of the plan to keep playing shows and putting out music and keep journeying into the stars, if you will.
Absolutely, man. Well, I was going to say The Weeknd just put out a new record, and it's synthwave. The whole record is. I feel like synthwave's kind of coming up in mainstream all of a sudden, making a big comeback, big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a double-edged thing where it's like it's cool, but then it's like that's when it can get dangerous of it being overexposed, and then it seems like a bunch of us who have been doing this for like 10 years, like it's like, hey, I know you like that Weeknd album, but have you ever heard of what we do over here? Like, because we've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a while, and then these people probably heard our stuff and were like, hey, that's a good idea. Let me just do that to my 20 million followers real quick. And
yeah, I mean, it's all relative, because like, I'm borrowing ideas from the past or
right, recycling.
Yeah, it's like, I can't complain too much, and it could be good, and it's cool that people are into that stuff. So maybe I'm just looking for a couple more of those listeners myself to siphon off of.
With you being in LA and whatnot, and having all these big talents at your fingertips, is there any particular collabs or anything that we could be expecting on future projects, or maybe someone that you desire to do a collab with in the near future?
I mean, I've had some collab stuff like fall through of like scheduling things, not really any like negative reason. It's hard to collab these days. I definitely have a few guys that I'd like to collab with. I'd like to do a collab with Com Truise, probably. That would be cool. And I've like I said, I've worked with some guys, like trying to get some collab going, but our schedules never link up, and I don't even know if I should like mention these names. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And I don't need to name drop for no reason, but I'm hoping to get some stuff this year with some collabs, or like some co-writing things or contributions to other artists, if you will.
Well, everybody, be sure and check out Droid Bishop on social media and all streaming platforms. He's got the Night EP on there. Man, I appreciate you calling in. You're welcome to stay on the line for a second after the show, but unfortunately we're out of time, so everybody have a good night, and go check out Droid Bishop.
Programming on News Radio WGNS.
I'm Ron Jordan. An event that was held at Canonsburg Village earlier this year led to emails and letters being sent to city council members. They were complaints over